Hey y'all, this is Travel with Rekyiah, and here are the 8 things that you need to know before your cruise. Before we start though, I just wanted to take a second, number one, because I'm excited that Travel with Rekyiah on Instagram has made it to 20,000 followers. So really excited for that. Actually, I think we might be at 21 now, but very excited. And also, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I usually have my puff, but I've actually started my lock journey. So really excited for that. It's gonna be very convenient for traveling and really looking forward to the journey. All right, now let's get into it. So number one, first things first, let's talk about passport versus birth certificate and ID. For those of you that don't know, for cruises that start and end at the same port in the United States, oftentimes you don't have to have a passport and you can get away with using a certified birth certificate and ID, but it's not ideal. Using a passport is always gonna be your safest option, but let's talk about why. In the event of an emergency, and by emergency, I mean unplanned sickness, death in the family, any sort of extraneous situation where you would have to fly back home during your cruise from one of the cruise ports, if you do not have a passport, you might end up having to go to the US Embassy and getting an emergency passport. Very pricey, very stressful, and you're already in a stressful situation because you're flying back home during your cruise. So I always recommend having your passport. It's the most universally accepted form of identification, and I just like to have that safety net. Number two, let's talk about guaranteed cabins. If you know me, I love to travel on a budget. I'm a teacher salary, but I also like to travel. So I like to travel on a budget. So guaranteed cabins are a great way to be able to travel, but save some extra money. But here's the catch. With guaranteed cabins, you do not get to pick your room. The cruise line picks your room for you. And while some instances, this might not be a big deal, if you're somebody that has a balcony guaranteed or ocean view guaranteed, you don't want to, number one, have an obstructed view, which is a biggie. Like if you're paying for a balcony, you want to be able to see out and see the water. You don't want to see a random pole or like a raft or something. But I will say my most recent cruise, I got a guaranteed balcony and an upgraded one too. And literally I paid I think it was like $427 a person, whereas other people on the cruise paid $1,200 for interior. So, I mean, but I booked it last minute and I booked guaranteed. So it looked out for me, but I was definitely nervous. I was like, please don't let my view be obstructed. So just know what you're getting yourself into if you do choose to go that route. This also can affect interior too though, because if you're somebody that gets seasick very, very easily and you pick a guaranteed cabin, there's no guarantee that they're not gonna stick you at the very back of the ship. So keep that in mind before you board your cruise, especially on a smaller cruise ship where you feel a whole lot more movement. So number 3 is tender ports. So tender ports are ports where the cruise ship can't dock directly at the pier, and instead they have to dock a little bit out and you have to take some boats over to the actual shore. It's usually a pretty painless process, but there are a couple little things to keep in mind. So make sure if you're at a tender port, you go ahead and plan for it taking some extra time to get to land, and also planning ahead so that you have enough time to get back to the ship. Also, if you are leaving a tender port right before the ship leaves, it is usually chaotic. So take that into account. Know that there might be longer waiting times. So think about that before you decide when you're either going out or when you're coming back. The second part, what was the second part? The second thing to think about is that there are some cruise lines that will allow you to sign up for a slot to be able to take a tender over to the island. I didn't know that for one of my cruises, and I'm usually somebody that likes to get out there early. So I actually had to wait until all the people who had registered for a slot to go first, and then I didn't get to spend as much time on the island. And it was such a beautiful island, and so I was sad. So learn from my mistake. If your cruise offers that option, check into it, see if you do have to schedule a slot, and if so, do that early. So weather can affect tendering as well, so keep that in mind. So number 4, cabin electricity. It sounds simple, but hear me out. So oftentimes when you get into your cruise cabin, there's gonna be like a little slot next to the door where a key card sticks into it and turns your electricity on. I did not know this. Sometimes you get lucky and you have cabin stewards that'll put a little card in there for you so you don't even have to think about it. But this one actually caught me by surprise. I was like, my lights aren't working, my air conditioner's not working. So I literally I called guest services and they sent an electrician. The whole time it's just because I didn't have a card and the little key card holder. So definitely embarrassing, and I felt bad because the poor man had to take time out of his day to come tell me how to turn the lights. So anyways, learn from my mistakes. So if you have like an old hotel key card or something along that sort, I would bring that along just so you don't have to keep your cruise key card in the holder. Another thing to note about electricity in the cabin is that there may not be a whole lot of outlets throughout the cabin. You might only have one outlet. So make sure you're prepared. You bring a, what's that thing called? Outlet adapter that meets the cruise line's criteria so that if you need to charge more than one thing, you can. Number 5, check your large bags. I personally, number 1, I was a broke college student when I went on my first cruise on my own, and I was trying to save some money. And so I thought that you had to pay to have your bags checked. So I did not check my bags. Now I do recommend tipping your porter for taking your bag. So I always do that. But I thought that you had to pay for the service, like it was like an upcharge. And so I'm lugging all my luggage around, and then I found out and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's easier on you. It doesn't cause as much clutter during the check-in process. And last thing is that your room might not even be ready when you get onto the cruise ship. So it would be better for them to bring it in and you not have to lug suitcases all around the pool deck. So learn from my mistakes. How many times do I say that in my video? Like, learn from my mistakes. I learned everything the hard way, and then I'm here to give you guys oh gosh. So anyways, once you get to the cruise terminal, there'll be porters that are checking bags. If you've already printed out your luggage tags, it does streamline the process. But if you haven't, they do have little tags that you can write your information in, and they will deliver your bags to your room. They might not be there until later on that evening though. I think I've only had to wait like 1 or 2 hours before, but I've heard of people having to wait until later on in the evening. So I do absolutely recommend that you bring a carry-on that houses medications, any sort of chargers, things that you're gonna need in the meantime, or in the unlikely event that your bag is lost, which like I said, it has never happened to me, but it's always a possibility. So for number 6, we're gonna talk about the main dining room. I honestly didn't realize how many people didn't know that you can order as much as you want in the main dining room. So you don't have to just order 1 appetizer and 1 entree. You can do 2 appetizers, you can do no entree. So there is some flexibility there. Other cool part about the main dining room is that it's not just open for dinner. A lot of times you can go there for breakfast as well, and the quality and service is gonna be a lot quicker than going to the buffet most days, and you get to sit down, enjoy your food, watch a good view, and I enjoy it. It's like going to brunch for free every day while you're on the cruise ship. So for number 7, we're gonna talk about changes to itinerary. So this is also one that a lot of people don't know, and cruise lines will do their best to make sure that they stick to the itinerary that's planned. But if there's something that comes up like bad weather or issues with the port, then your cruise may decide, hey, we're either gonna go to an alternate location or we're gonna have an extra day at sea. This is honestly pretty common during the low season of cruising. So the season when the weather's not ideal in different situations. I actually had this happen back in my cruise in December of last year, my pre-Christmas cruise, and we missed going to Great Stirrup Cay because the weather wasn't permitting and we had an extra day at sea. I'm a port girly, so I love going into port, but I was like, okay, if this is the day that's gonna be missed, that's okay. Like, we have 3 more ports that we're going to, and yeah, all is well. Keep in mind, if you're only going on a cruise for one specific destination, it is possible that the itinerary could change. So keep that in mind when you're planning your next cruise. My dream is for to not be able to go to Nassau or something because it's the weather or the water's too choppy, and then we have to go to Aruba. That's not happening. But a girl can dream. That's my dream. And last but not least, embarkation time. So about 45 days out from your cruise, when you complete your online check-in, complete it early, when you complete your online check-in, you'll be able to pick a time for embarkation, and it usually will range from early in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. So obviously, the earlier that you check in, the more options you have for choosing your embarkation time. If you're somebody that just wants to get their vacation started and make the most of their trip, I definitely recommend embarking early. But it's important to note that oftentimes your cabin isn't ready till around 2 p.m. So that means you have to hold on to everything that you have. So hopefully you checked your luggage, and you might be without access to your cabin for quite a while, depending on which time you pick. That being said, I was really excited on my last celebrity cruise because they actually allowed us to go put our bags into the closet. We just couldn't occupy the room until 2, which I thought was awesome. That was great for me because I could drop my things off and go get me some food, go to the pool. So you're not, on the pool deck with your belongings. But if you're like me, I'm the type of person that likes to get on a cruise ship and be able to get acclimated and settled in. So I like to get there closer to the time when my room is gonna be ready. So I might embark at 1 p.m. or something like that, just so I don't have to wait too long before I actually get access to my room. I can unpack, I can shower if I need to, because traveling is draining. So sometimes I like to just be able to get there so that I can go to my room first. If you want to learn more about cruising, about some cruising tips, some cruising hacks, how to cruise on a budget, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to like this video, comment down below about some videos you want to see, some questions you have, so that I can do that for you. Also, next year, Travel with Rekyiah is having the first group cruise. I'm so excited. Travel with Rekyiah and friends. We currently only have 2 cabins left, so if you're interested in going, make sure you check down below. We're going to Grand Turk, Turks and Caicos, Half Moon Cay, Bahamas, and Nassau, Bahamas. So I really hope to see you guys there. It's gonna be such a blast. I'm really excited. This is Travel with Rekyiah. Follow me for more.